Hey, what's up, folks? I know you've missed me. Jimmy Smith, YouTube channel starting back up. Yeah, I said I was going to keep going with it. It's been the 2 weeks have just been really busy with my new show on SiriusXM, Unlocking the Cage, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so it's just been a busy 2 weeks. I'm back on schedule, I swear. So I'm doing a pre-fight for this one. I'll do a post-fight for this one. I'll be back on track, at least a video a week, if not two. It's just been hard talking MMA 2 hours a day and getting ready for every single show and then doing this again at the end. But I'm back now. So, okay. All right. So here's my pick. Here's my pre-fight breakdown for Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley. And then tune in, if you can, SiriusXM every day from 1 to 3, where I have a 2-hour show where I will talk about MMA incessantly. Okay. We'll start at the bottom of the card. I have my headphones because I was doing a Skype interview with a podcast. So I'm just keeping my headphones on. So anyway, Kevin Holland versus Darren Stewart. Kevin Holland, one of those guys, 18-5, kind of a loose style, kind of a karate stance. He switches stances a lot. This fight is a real contrast in builds, not just in styles, but in builds. Switches stance a lot, very accurate. You saw the body shot that dropped and finished Hernandez. Man, he's quick. He is accurate. He's powerful, but he's not that big for the weight class. He's not that solid for the weight class. When you look at, almost more like an Anderson Silva type of build and style as well. He relies on his ability to float, move, change directions. A decent ground game, but that's not where his bread and butter is. It's a matter of being able to catch you unawares on the feet because he's always chasing angles on you. Darren Stewart, last time we saw him, he won by guillotine over Maki Pitolo. First submission win of his career. He generally doesn't win that way. Stocky. The dude is strong for this weight class. He is a big middleweight. But his style is pretty basic. Comes forward, throws basic punches. Is a pressure guy. Doesn't switch stances a lot. Doesn't rely on a lot of creative techniques. It's muscle you around, walk forward, throw combinations until you drop. So stylistically, these guys couldn't be any different at all. I think essentially, I think Kevin Holland has fought better talent, more experienced guys. He's got a few more weapons in which to use against Darren Stewart, but Darren Stewart shows in the Pitolo fight wasn't a great guillotine, but God, he was strong enough to get it. So even if it isn't perfect, there's a lot more power behind it. It's about who makes the mistake and who pays for it. It's going to be a close one. I'll go with Kevin Holland just because I like what he's doing with his stand-up. He's taller, 6'3", he's rangier. I think that ends up being an advantage for him. He might get a finish in this one, maybe late. Mackenzie Dern versus Ronda Marcos. This is an easy call simply because Ronda Marcos' bread and butter has always been her ground game and her jiu-jitsu. That's it. She gets on top of you, good pressure. If she can't, all her finishes are by submission. She has 4 finishes, they're all submissions. When she wins decisions, it tends to be on the ground. She gets good position on you, tight ground and pound, doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. She's heavy, she's strong, she's good positionally, and she wears fighters down. Mackenzie Dern has the better jiu-jitsu. She is world-class on the ground. So Ronda Marcos' only strength, which is not her only strength, but her biggest strength is her jiu-jitsu. Dern has better jiu-jitsu. So even if she wants to take her down and do what she normally does, but the top part, she doesn't want to do it against Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern has the best guard in the division, the best jiu-jitsu in the division. Her sweeps are incredibly creative. If she takes this fight seriously, and which I think has been her issue in the past, and her weights on point and her physique is ready to go, that she didn't skimp in training camp, and that's kind of difficult in the COVID era. But if she's on point, she wins this fight. I don't think there's a whole lot else to say about it other than it's a jiu-jitsu fight, and Mackenzie Dern has a better jiu-jitsu. I would go with Mackenzie Dern by decision 10 ways from Sunday. The only way that Ronda Marcos might win this is by making a striking battle and using her jiu-jitsu and MMA and wrestling defensively. Keeping Mackenzie Dern at a distance. Don't let her take you down. Stay on the outside. When you get on top, use the most boring jiu-jitsu game in the world. Don't try to pass. Stay square. Right? Stay safe. If she can get that going, she has a shot. I just don't see that happening against Mackenzie Dern. I think Mackenzie Dern by submission. Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann. This one is interesting because the two sides of the coin here. Number one, John Jones isn't the light heavyweight champion anymore. So every light heavyweight I've talked to has talked about, man, it's a huge shakeup. There's a lot of room now in the division. It's not about this one guy at the top that everybody's looking at. Anybody can kind of sneak their way in. So Johnny Walker, of course, has lost his last two. Ryan Spann coming off a win against Smiling Sam Alvey. He didn't look great. It's so hard to look great against Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey is one of those guys where I've seen far superior fighters just look bad against Sam Alvey. He's awkward. He hits deceptively hard. You have to respect his power. It keeps fighters at a distance. He doesn't really push the pace or throw a lot, so it's hard to find countering opportunities. So I'm willing to forgive the bad performance against Sam Alvey. Johnny Walker, though, has lost two. And the question is, in this fight, did Johnny Walker just kind of surprise everybody with his build and his lankiness and his explosiveness, and they weren't quite ready for it? But now that they've caught up and they're aware that that's kind of the end, where you were one-trick pony, we found out the trick, we're all ready for what you bring. That's kind of the question here in this fight, because I think Spann is a bit more solid. He's a bit more orthodox. He's a bit more traditional. Has real power. He's fighting against Nogueira, of course. Nogueira is somewhat faded. I mean, Little Nog is, old. But still, he has real power. But can Johnny Walker kind of get back to his form where he was surprising people, where he was doing creative stuff? It's like, look, if you can take him down, you can negate his game. That's what happened in the last fight. And if you can catch him making the mistakes that are normal with his build, like Corey Anderson did, you can knock him out. So take him off his feet or find those openings with that rangy frame when he comes at you to clip him and finish him. Can Ryan Spann get that done? I think he can. I think Ryan Spann does find the right hand and is able to hurt Johnny Walker and make him pay for all the wild, zany stuff he does. So I'm kind of going with the more solid guy in Ryan Spann. I think he finds the shot. I'm going with him. Close fight, though. I really went back and forth on this one. Khamzat Chimaev versus Gerald Meerschaert. I just got asked on the podcast I was interviewed for, is there any way Meerschaert can win this fight? And I said, yeah. He's had 44 professional fights. We haven't seen Chimaev really deal with adversity. He's never been in a third round his entire career. We don't know how his gas is. We don't know how he handles something not going his way, adversity, fatigue. There are all kinds of things we're not quite sure he can deal with. If Meerschaert can make him deal with those things, right? Drag him into the deep water. Make it a frustrating fight, an ugly fight, a fight where he's used to getting quick finishes and looking great and have Damon White talking about him. You start kind of spinning in your own head where you can't get that finish early and things aren't quite going your way. And you start wondering, God, am I doing well enough? And all these things that you think about in your first 8 fights. This guy doesn't have a lot of experience to fall back on and go, oh, I've been here before. He's never been there before. So that's how Gerald Meerschaert could win. I don't think he will. That's the issue. Chimaev, I think, is going to get past Meerschaert probably in the same way he's gotten past everybody else, which is takedown, ground and pound finish comparatively early. Meerschaert feeling disrespected that they double booked Chimaev and they're already working on his next fight. Yeah, but you don't want to come at Chimaev angry. You don't want to come at Chimaev pissed off and do something stupid. So an ice-cold Gerald Meerschaert, I think, fights better, but seems disrespected and upset. So I think he comes out a little too aggressive and Chimaev catches him. So I definitely go Chimaev in that one, probably by ground and pound finish. Donald Cerrone versus Nico Price. For the last however many years, this is the kind of situation Donald Cerrone shines in. It's a co-main event. It's against a guy who isn't elite, a guy who's going to bang and throw, a guy who's going to be aggressive on the feet and play right into Donald Cerrone's strengths. And this is the kind of fight he would normally do great in. Is there any of that cowboy left? That's really the question here. And I hate asking this question, but I am. Before this, before the last couple performances, even up until now, he's faded against elite fighters with all the lights on and a lot on the line. That's when he's faded. So he'll do great against a million Nico Prices and then fights for a title and looks awful. And fights in pay-per-view and looks terrible. Fights for big stakes and just collapses. But he's never collapsed against a Nico Price type fighter in this situation. But has he just taken too many of these damn beatings and he doesn't have another left in him? He didn't look that sharp. It was a close fight, but the Pettis fight was the first guy where the stakes weren't that high and he lost. Pettis is a tough guy, but Pettis has faded significantly in the last few fights. So the question here is, can Donald Cerrone put together a vintage performance in a situation he would normally look great in against an opponent he would normally look great against, having gone through all he's gone through? Or is it kind of the end of the road, and we're going to see that in this fight? God, that's hard. I've really gone back and forth. If you can't tell, I've really gone back and forth with this one. Every time I picked Donald Cerrone for emotional reasons where I wanted to see him win, he's lost. Every time I was like, come on, Donald, you got this. I want to see you really get this win. He's disappointed me. So, God, because I'm in that position again, I'm just going to take the opposite road and go Nico Price, and maybe that helps Cowboy win. And I look like an idiot, but Cowboy wins, so I'll feel better about it. So I got to go with Nico Price. I just think Donald Cerrone's just been through too much to even turn in the kind of performances that used to get him through the Fight Night main events and the co-main events and stuff like that. We just might see him on the downside. And I hate to say that, but I think we might. Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley. Props to Tyron Woodley, honestly, for wanting this fight at this point in his career. He's lost 10 rounds in a row. It's hard to think of somebody losing 10 rounds in a row without getting finished. Usually, like, Chuck Liddell, for example, when a fighter is like done and they go off a cliff, they start getting finished, right? It starts going really bad. With Tyron Woodley, hasn't gotten finished. He's lost 10 rounds in a row. I don't remember that ever happening to a former champion at the elite level, where he keeps losing, but he's not getting finished. And he just doesn't look like the same guy. He's not explosive. His takedown's not there. His right hand hasn't been a factor. Colby Covington comes at you, takes you down, and just throws volume. That's all the guy does. He's got a volume takedown. If you look at his takedowns, for example, against Robbie Lawler, there's a lot of reaching stuff. He'd end up in these positions called an Iranian, which is a head in between the legs and kind of looking up. And he would just go for it and go for it and go for it until he gets something. And then on the feet, it was just throw, throw, throw until I get something. He's not that powerful. He's not particularly sharp. He's not super accurate. He just wears guys down. And I've talked to guys at Top Team who trained with him. I know he's not Top Team anymore, but guys who helped him come up, like, dude, the dude's a freak. He's just a freak. He has cardio where he just goes and goes and goes and goes. It's ridiculous. Tyron Woodley, it looks like Tyron Woodley is taking on the worst possible guy, stylistically for him, at the worst possible point in his career with all this bad blood on the line. Like, I'm amazed he took this fight, because right now, can he win? Yes. He's got to stop Colby Covington's takedown consistently, which he did not do against Kamaru Usman. Didn't even do it against Gilbert Burns. Got taken down by Burns, who's not a great wrestler. His power has to be a factor. You got to crack Colby Covington hard enough to get him off you, right? Against somebody like Colby Covington, the Diaz brothers, guys who are volume punchers, you have to hit them hard enough to get them away from you. And the Diaz brothers relied a lot on their chins. A lot. They don't really move their heads that much. It's just like they take a shot and they just keep going. And then they kind of pot shot you until you collapse. Colby Covington has a similar thing. He's not hard to hit. You just have to hit him hard enough to make him go away. And Kamaru Usman was able to do that. Not only in the final sequence where he knocked him out, he cracked him a couple times. He made Colby Covington back off. Tyron Woodley, his power hasn't been a factor in his last few fights. So we need, and not that he can't do it or he hasn't done it in the past, I haven't seen it in enough time to believe he's going to do it against Colby Covington. I didn't see him do it against Gilbert Burns. I didn't see him do it against Kamaru Usman. So I find it hard to believe he's going to do it against Colby Covington. So I got to be rational about it. I would love to see Tyron Woodley win this fight, but I just think it's a bad matchup at the wrong time for Tyron Woodley. I think Colby Covington wins, probably by decision. So those are my picks. I will be doing a post-fight breakdown. Okay? So my YouTube channel will be back. I will be doing this stuff. But check out SiriusXM and Lock in the Cage every day from 1 to 3. And you'll hear me talk about MMA every single day. But if you just want to stay with the YouTube channel, I will be back with it. All right. Thanks for your patience. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon.